Okay, welcome back to Notes from the Pastor Cave and in all of our impressive professionalism. There is a big buzzy fly in the room here. I hope I hope that you don't. This microphone is really good and it picks up a whole bunch of things. I really hope you don't hear the big buzzy fly that's flying around the Pastor Cave right now. I don't know where the cats. The cats are not doing their job in catching the flies. We are done with Exodus chapter 14, and we move on very quickly to chapter 15, because 15 is essentially almost all of it is taken up with an impromptu worship service. Okay, so they get to the other side of the sea that God has split for them. And they make it to the other side, and then here comes, hard charging Pharaoh's special forces, his horses and his chariots, and they go charging into the breach, and God closes the water on them, and they are drowned. And Pharaoh's army is completely devastated. This would be the elite stuff. These would be the best troops, the shock troops. They're all gone. They're destroyed, and it's going to be a real challenge for Pharaoh militarily from here on out. And so then there's this worship service as Moses and the people of Israel sang this song to the Lord, saying, I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. And it goes on and on. It's 18 verses, okay? But there's a couple of things, usually I wouldn't spend a lot of time in teaching out of a worship song, except, I've done that in the Psalms quite a few times. But there's one thing in here that I found that really kind of made me sit up and take note, and it's verse 9, and it says, "The enemy said," in other words, in this case, Pharaoh, but it could be any enemy. "The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire shall have its fill of them. I will draw my sword, my hand will destroy them." Okay? My desire shall have its fill of them. In other words, I in my rage, in my revenge, in my hatred, in my bitterness, I will have my fill of them. I will kill as many of them as makes me feel good or makes me feel better. I'll have my fill. I'll essentially I'll drink their flesh and blood. And I got thinking about that back a ways, and I got looking at that, and I thought to myself, those are the things that we need to reject in our lives, right? Because we don't want to be like Pharaoh. We want to be like God. Okay, those are the things we need to reject: hatred, rage, bitterness, revenge. Because when we start to exercise those emotions, they fill us up with something that we don't want. There's the old saying that bitterness is, bitterness against somebody is drinking poison and expecting that other guy to die. Okay, it fills us up when when we hate, when we're bitter, when we're revengeful. Those things have a way of filling us up, but they don't fill us up with what we need to be full of. And they're very temporary. If let's say that Pharaoh had gotten his desire, that Pharaoh had been able to slaughter every one of them, take revenge on all the awful things that happened to him because of his pride. But hey, let's just skip that for a minute. All of the awful things that that he saw happening to his nation and embarrassed him, and so he is able to take full revenge on all, kill every single one of them. Would that have taken away his hatred of them? No, it wouldn't have. Would it have taken away his bitterness towards everything that happened? No, it wouldn't have done it. How about his rage? Well, he'd have to go rage somewhere else. I mean, that's the thing we know about, despotic dictators, right? They're never just satisfied to wipe out one group they don't like. Once that's done, they have to go find another group to wipe out. Okay, and revenge. Once I've had my fill of revenge, does it really satisfy me? No, it doesn't. You can talk. You can go to prison after prison if you can get people to be honest and say, okay, well, you got revenge on that guy, and now you're in prison because you got revenge on that guy. Do you feel any better? Well, no, I don't. And so we can fill ourselves with all those things. And really, what we need to do as followers of Christ is we need to concentrate on fighting. Because there are just things that happen to us in life, right? There are things that happen to us where we could hate, where we could be bitter, where we could have rage, where we could seek revenge. I mean, every one of it, you just walk enough miles on this planet, and something's going to happen where you can seek to fill yourself with all those things. And so we have to fight our desire to fill up, and this is the way I like to put it. We have to fight the desire to fill up on other humans, because that's really what Pharaoh wants to do here. He wants to fill up on the destruction of other human beings. We have to fight that, because that's part of our corrupted nature. To want to, oh, that guy did me wrong, I'm going to get revenge, and I'm so angry, and I'm so bitter, and I hate him. Right? All of those things, they actually come, and it's really kind of scary. They come really natural to us, because I won't get into the theology of it, but yeah, that's the problem, is that they come really natural to us. Okay. So we have to, if I'm going to be a sincere follower of God, and I really want Him to work through me, and for Him to be part of me, and for me to be part of Him, and to do what's right in my life, I have to fight that desire to fill up on other human beings. And so, we have this, what I like to call the law of replacement. And I think way back beginning, we talked about that. My church has, heard it ad nauseum over the years. But the law of replacement means it's not just what you pull out of your life, it's what you put into your life afterwards. Okay? So I can work really hard to pull out hatred, bitterness, rage, revenge. Okay, but what am I going to replace that with? Because if I just pull it out, I'm just creating a vacuum, and nature and the spiritual world abhors a vacuum. Okay, so something's going to come rushing into that place. Something's going to come rushing into that void. And usually, if we just pull those very negative things out and then we just leave them alone, they actually come back and they're worse the second time. Okay, and I don't really have time to get into all of why that is. Okay, so it's important that we take out hatred, bitterness, rage, revenge, all of those things, so that we don't fill up on that using other human beings. But then what are we going to do when we take that out? Well, something needs to fill that void, and that void needs to be God. It needs to be an infilling of God's Holy Spirit in our lives in a more and more powerful way all the time. How does that happen? Spending time with God, reading His Word, hearing the preaching of the word, being with God's people, all those filling things, and the more you fill those things into your life, the less space there is for hatred, bitterness, rage, revenge. Okay, so that's where you are. And then I just want to touch on one more thing. Is verse 13. This is kind of random, but my notes are kind of random. And it says, "You have led in your steadfast love the people whom you have redeemed. You have guided them by your strength to your holy abode." Okay, so. And what I really want you to see here is this, that God leads those whom he redeems, and he guides them in the direction of him. Okay, so, God redeems, and we have this great story of rescue, this great story of redemption. God redeems the Israelites, but he doesn't just lead them out of Israel and say, well, my work's done here. I'm going on vacation, right? I'm leaving. No, he stays there for the long fight. He stays there for the long haul. He not only redeems them, he not only rescues them, but then he guides them. And it's the same with us. God doesn't just redeem us, change our hearts, change our lives just to kind of drop us and say, well, you're on your own, pal. God stays with us, and he guides us with his strength, and he guides us towards him, because ultimately, when we're talking about beyond geography here, ultimately, the abode of God is himself. And the perfect place for God's people is right by their God. And so when God redeems us by his strength, he leads us along, and he guides us towards what? He guides us towards him. Okay? So that is our note from the Pastor Cave today. And I want to remind you, as I always do, Vita brevis gloria aeterna. Life is short. Glory is eternal. Good day.